Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Gadget have decided to do a mini sale over the next few days, basically until the 30th of September, and 11 vehicles are going to be available at a 50% discount. This is a lot of vehicles, which are in some of the major tech trees, basically from America, Japan, Russia, Germany, and Britain. And also, after the 30th of September, they will all be removed from sale. So they're all just going to be gone. Now, my guess is they'll probably be back in different ways, but since this is a 50% off sale, you're probably not going to get better value out of a sale than this for these specific vehicles. If you want to pick up Golden Eagles, make sure to use my partner link in the description or in the pinned comment, but we're going to do individual reviews for each of these vehicles. I'll give my opinions and whether they're worth it or not, but it's just kind of surprising to see so many removed at the same time, and since you only have 3 days basically to get on top of this deal, it might be worth getting onto it soon, at least tomorrow and over the weekend. There's some spicy ones here. There are some duds, which I'm not really too surprised that they're being removed, but some of them are good bangers. Right, let's get into them and give some opinions. The first vehicle is the American A6 M2. Now, this is exactly the same as the A6 M2, which is in the Japanese tech tree. The only difference is no secondary ordnance and, well, no secondary ordnance in the future. This vehicle is fine at what it does. At the BR of 3.7, it can be incredibly effective, especially with its 220mm, and also very good turn rate and pretty decent climb rate too. The only area where this vehicle struggles is in straight line speed, but since it's a turn fighter, and probably the best turn fighter at its BR, you don't really have to worry about that too much. The only thing I would say is it's probably better just to play the Japanese tech tree if you want to get access to the experience of the A6 M2, and there are better options in the American tech tree around these BRs for fighters which are very good. Obviously this one has high rewards and is good, but the weapons can be a bit temperamental, especially the 20mm Type 99s, but whereas something like the XP50, which is probably going to be on sale in the November one, might be a better pickup instead of something like this. This will still serve you well, it will be a fantastic vehicle, it's just there are better options at the same rank. The next vehicle is the F89D, which is being removed from rank 5. Now this one's a little bit odd, because you actually have to purchase the F89B before purchasing the F89D, which is something that I've never really enjoyed, this arrow here, and it looks like they're not getting rid of that arrow, so if you want access to this vehicle, you'll have to purchase the other one. The F89D is pretty fun. It's under BR'd, just like the other one, and the reason is because it's a little bit tougher to play compared to other vehicles. It has 2 afterburning engines, which usually mean it's the fastest thing overall, but also it does lose a lot of energy in the turn. Now, it does have a track radar, which is pretty fun. This one is actually more useful than other ones, especially in simulator, because of these rocket pods which it has on the wings. So this can carry 104 Mighty Mouses. It has no internal guns or anything like that. And the interesting thing about these Mighty Mouses is they come in 2 forms. So you have the standard heat ones, which are used to ground pound. You can also bring some HVARs alongside of it if you want to ground pound, but these ones, the M439s, these have a proximity fuse on them. So all you have to do is get it close to the target, and it will explode and do a ton of damage. This means in a head-on, this one can actually be super powerful against a lot of other vehicles, and also if you get good at hitting with the proximity rockets, you can do a ton of damage in it. It was one of those things a lot of people would do back in the day with this vehicle, because it's pretty quick, therefore you can set up with it very, very well. Now, it isn't classic, standard premium, which is just going to do awesome. You will have to work at it quite a lot to understand how the rockets are going to work with the convergence and also other parts, but it does have everything else that you'd want in a vehicle. The only problem is if you end up getting in a dogfight or something similar to that, then you might have a bit of a problem because, of course, of the convergence of the rockets. But you can also work around that if you want to. It also has really high SL reward, so if you are an air player and you're looking to get some SL, this one isn't a bad one. For Germany, you have the Jelly Welly. It is finally being removed after many years in service for the German Air Force in War Thunder. This one used to be a vehicle that people would use for grinding a little bit at the lower ranks of Germany, but since then it's kind of been completely worthless. It does have a really good bomb load, but the problem with it is the same as all the Wellingtons. It has low survivability, and it has terrible secondary armaments from the turrets, so it has a dual gun here, and then it has one here, and then it has two singles in the side, which is just not enough firepower to actually stay alive. It only has two engines, so once one gets hit, it's very hard to actually continue moving on this, and also it doesn't get any of the bigger bombs compared to, you know, some other vehicles that are around. It's lost a lot of its use over the years, and that basically means that it's just not worth it at all. If you play, I suppose, Air Arcade, it might be worth taking it out every once in a while to do like a bombing challenge, but since it's only rank 2, you can only do the first daily with it and not the second. So for me, when I look at this, it's not really worth it. It can't really climb. It can't really do anything. This is more of just a purchase for a nostalgia purchase for Germany, if you want to see it like that. The 219 is a lot better than the Wellington, but it relies on one thing which you don't really want to rely on as this type of vehicle. The 219 is at 4.3, which is a pretty low BR when you have a look at its offensive armament. It has two Mk.103s, two Mk.108s, and two Mg.151s, all in the centrally mounted area. The Mk.103s are very good at hitting ground targets. They actually do a ton of damage with this armored target belt. You know, you have the HVAP, you pen quite a lot. If you are in Air Realistic or any of the air game modes, you can do a metric ton with it. And even in ground game modes, you can also do quite a lot. It also has this funny search radar, so you can kind of search what's going on in front of you. I'm really happy that they ended up modeling this. And then also it has the DB603E engines, which give it a lot of power too, meaning that it's actually very fast for the 4.3 BR. It has a criminal problem, though. It can't defend itself. So if you are left alone with a bunch of ground targets or naval targets, whether it's in naval, ground, or air, you'll have a great time. You'll be able to smash people with all the guns, even though they have different velocities. You know, you can make them work, and you can have a great time. The moment another vehicle is in the air, so the moment there's another airplane around, you just die. This thing loses a lot of speed in the turn, and also is a large target. It has no turrets. It has nothing like that. So you are massively limited in terms of defending yourself in this. So in an offensive role, it's fantastic. In a defensive role, it's horrific. And with this vehicle being at rank 4, it is a strike aircraft, so you do get the air spawn, meaning that you can, you know, get into it quite quickly into battles. But you have bombers at this BR with Germany, which have 4 1,000 kilo bombs. So they are just much better at getting their bombs off, getting out of the battle zone, instead of having to gun things over and over and over again and destroy them. So for me, the 219 is a no, even though it's a really iconic and interesting vehicle, but at the same time, it just has that fundamental flaw that annoys me. The USSR, the Type 28 is being removed, the I-16. This is just a heavy vehicle. So there's a lot of vehicles in the game that like this. The Fokker D21, for example, where they have this immense firepower. And the Type 28 does. You know, it has the 220mm, it has the 2762 Shikasses, which is great, and, you know, that's awesome. You can do quite a lot. With this thing as well, you also have some rockets and some bombs that you can bring nowadays, so you can use it as kind of a cast threat, so at least there's that. But the major issue with this thing is its engine. The engine is the Shvedstov M63, and since this vehicle has a massively increased armament, one of the things about the I-16 that was very nice is that it was super maneuverable and could keep its speed in the turns. Therefore, you could play it like stuff like a Spitfire and stuff like a Japanese Zero. But with this additional weight on it, it loses so much in the turn, an insane amount in the turn, which basically means that this thing is kind of worthless. And if you have a look at it compared to some of the other vehicles that are around, you know, the P39, which is way lower than an MBR, the i301s at the same time, the Chaika, the IL-2 M82, all of these vehicles in air realistic or ground realistic just feel better than this thing because they can actually get to the battlefield in a good time and also don't have to rely on a terrible engine to try and conserve energy while dogfighting. Spitfires, Zeros, and everything will run rings around you, and then you're able to turn fight certain vehicles, but what's the point? Because you are still worse than a lot of others that are designed for turn fighting. So the guys that you are good against will not turn fight you because they're not designed for turn fighting. And the guys who you are bad against, other turn fighters, will destroy you. So it's just not a good vehicle at all. And there are much better options for the Soviets, which are lower BR. For Britain, there's a bunch of them that are actually being removed, including the Hudson Mk.V. So kind of surprising to see this being removed. It's not exactly a great vehicle. It's a bit of a hodgepodge, meaning that it has just like a bit of everything. You can see here that it can carry a bunch of different bombs and also a bunch of different rockets. It's just a really weird machine, like in terms of its secondary load. And that is, you know, kind of criminal for a bomber. For a bomber, you want something that makes sense, that it can destroy a base, which I don't think this thing can, or maybe it can destroy one. But you want it to actually have kind of more of a reason to be a bomber. So what you actually end up using this thing for is a bomber hunter. This is very similar stuff like the SP2C, just at a much lower BR. So you do have the offensive armaments. You have 277s, which are here, which will destroy bombers at this BR. You also have a dual 77 on the back, and then also one below here. But generally, this is not a great vehicle. It's just, once again, jack of all trades, master of none. And those types of vehicles just do not work well in War Thunder. They're not things which you want to rely on in terms of grinding, especially, especially for a premium. So rank 2s as well can only do one daily. Can't do the other one. There's much better options for that, but also generally it's not very fast. It is quite maneuverable because of this huge elevator at the back, so that's why you can kind of like dogfight bombers, which can be quite nice. But if you're not looking to do that specific thing and you are looking to use it as like a proper bomber or use it as a CAS element for ground or naval, there are tons of better options that you should go for as premium vehicles. Talking a bit about a better vehicle for CAS or for just general bomber use, the Havoc. So if you didn't know about the Havoc, there's a bunch of different ones of the kind of A20 series in the British tree. You have the Havoc, which I believe is the lowest BR one. Then you have the DB7, which is the French one. Then you have the Boston, which is right here. The Havoc is the one which is being removed from sale. Basically, what this vehicle is similar to the other ones, apart from it has access to 7.7 Brownings. So this has a offensive capability of 4.77s. It also has some singular 7.7 Vickers machine guns for defense. But this thing's pretty quick. It's at 518 kilometers an hour, but also it spawns with speed, which is really nice. So you can get your bombs off pretty effectively and then get back to base. It has 4.500, so easier to use than something like the Hudson. And also, as I said, this thing is much more aerodynamic, and you can actually use it properly as you want to, either in the kind of aggressive bomber hunter role or in using the bombs and then going after other targets as a secondary fighter. It also has the Pratt & Whitney S3 CGs. These have a lot of power behind them, meaning that you can push this thing through the air very effectively, and also it's quite maneuverable for quite a large bird. And I've just had a really good time with these vehicles, the Havoc, the Boston, and also the DB, and also the A20s up to an extent, even though they're higher BR. I would definitely recommend this one. I think it's a lot of fun, and as I said, it just has a ton of speed at this BR, meaning you can get in and get out, and even maybe read some audiobooks along the same time. They're also removing the Attacker FP2. This is kind of surprising. This is very similar to the standard Tech Tree Attacker. The only difference is the tail is slightly different, but it doesn't really change anything aerodynamically. I've really enjoyed the Attacker. I understand that it's one of those vehicles that's not hugely well liked, mainly because of the guns. The 20mm of the Hispano Mk.5s, which pack a hell of a punch, like they're completely fine as weaponry, but also they aren't centrally mounted, so you have to worry about convergence. For me, I've always found the Hispanos incredibly easy to get on targets, probably because of just playing so many vehicles with these Mark 5s, but generally it's not too bad. And nowadays, if you run, the air targets or, something similar, you'll hit like a truck, so all you have to do is land 1 or 2 shells, and since you have 600 of them, that's not too hard to do. It has the Nene, the 102, which gives it a decent amount of thrust, like not as much as a lot of other vehicles. If you compare this vehicle to something like the F-89, for example, you can see the stark difference between them, right? And then also you have the pilot here that has no additional setup, so no CCIP, no CCRP, or anything like that. What is nice about this vehicle, though, is it can bring the 1000-pounders. This means for a CAS element, it works very well. Unfortunately, you don't have the secondary armament sets yet. Hopefully, it will in the future. But you can run it in aviation as a pretty good kind of middle fighter. So it has enough speed to be able to capitalize on, people turn fighting and dog fighting, and also at the same time, the Hispanos can be used in a secondary role at hitting ground targets and getting quite a lot done. And also, as a CAS element with the bombs, it can be very effective in ground and also naval. Also, these Hispanos are able to pen a lot of vehicles above them. So if you want to use this in a CAS role, you can do pretty effectively, which is quite nice. I will say there are better vehicles around this BR, so you won't be always a predator that's wandering about the place. But as I said, I kind of enjoyed the standard Attacker, and I don't see why this one would be any different. The Vijayante is also on sale and getting removed. This is incredibly surprising. This vehicle is very powerful. If you've ever used the standard Vickers, you know how good this vehicle is. Basically, what the Vijayante is a pretty solid MBT for the British. It's also Indian, so it's one of the Indian vehicles they added. It has access to a decent power plant. Remember that, well, actually, here, I'll just order it for you so you can see like the proper stats on it. Also, whenever you buy one of these, it does give you a bunch of backups on it, so remember that as you go forward. So let's just reset this just to make sure everything's there proper. So the engine itself is a 538 horsepower one, and that may not seem very good for this type of vehicle. But one of the things you have to understand about these Vickers vehicles is they don't actually have a lot of armor. And this may sound bad. It isn't, okay? Because armor at this BR is one of the least useful things about a vehicle. And the Vijayante excels in 2 other areas. So you have good mobility, very good forward, and also good reverse, which is something you don't get a lot with these British vehicles. And with the gun, which is a standard L7, it has the 2-plane stabilizer, so you can always guarantee that you're going to be able to shoot first against a lot of enemies. And then also, it has access to the M728 and also the M456 rounds, which are useful in different roles when dealing with a lot of targets. And then the other part of it that is really cool is this vehicle has a 6.5 second reload, and it can get down to a 5-second reload when aced. So it has really, really good reload speed. If you compare that to other vehicles, like there's the Vickers, which is the standard 834 Britain, you can see here this one can only get down to 6-7 seconds at 8.7 as a standard, and then the Chieftain 9.8 second standard was 7.5 aced. And that is kind of the difference you're going to have with the Vijayante. The Vijayante is set up more similarly to the Mk.1, which is right here. Now, that does mean that, the Mk.1 is very good compared to its other vehicles that are around, and the Vijayante being a slightly higher BR gives it a slight negative. But the fact that this thing has the smokes, it has the ability to use the pretty decent rounds. It has the night vision that you'll never use. But the main thing is you have that great combination of being able to get the gun on target very effectively and rapid fire get out 105 millimeter shots. The only time you're going to have a problem in this vehicle is if you get fully up-tiered, and that sucks, but that sucks in every vehicle, doesn't it? If this thing had APF SDS, that'd be nicer, but it'd also be way higher in BR because of it. This one is a fantastic pickup and has a really good lineup around it too. It's just the fact that the matchmaking may not be the greatest right now, because there's a few monsters at A7, but nothing that the Vijayante can't deal with. For Japan, we have the Key 96. I didn't even realize this was a standard premium. I honestly thought this was an event vehicle. This vehicle is awful. Don't bother with it. Doesn't have enough speed for a 4.0, especially as a twin engine. Doesn't have access to a great armament. 137 with only 25 rounds, which every time you fire it, you lose a ton of speed. And then the 220s are quite nice, but not enough to justify this BR. There are many Japanese vehicles that are incredibly powerful. There is no need to play this one at 4.0 in arcade and also at 3.7 in realistic. It is just not worth your time. Don't bother with it. Your engines will overheat. You will get annoyed at the vehicle, and it won't be very fun. It isn't good. It also has no secondaries, so you are limited to kind of the air superiority role, which it isn't very good at, because the 37s only have Hefe. They don't get AP, and with these 20mm, they also don't pen a lot either. There are multitudes of better premiums and also just better vehicles of this BR than the Key 96. All three of these are better than it in every single way. Plus, all of these vehicles here are better than it, apart from maybe the Key 108. So, generally, I wouldn't bother with this. It's just a terrible pick. The Focke-Wulf 190A5 is also on offer for Japan. This is a solid premium. Like, it's very obviously similar to the German one, if not exactly the same. You can't get any additional stuff. But yeah, in general, this thing is incredibly similar. The major issue I have with this is the fact that you have so many Japanese planes that are so powerful, even premium wise. I don't know why you would ever pick this up, because you could just pick those Japanese ones, which are uniquely Japanese, more interesting than just a standard Focke-Wulf. This vehicle also has that problem where it has a mixture of armaments. It has the MGFFs and also the MG151s. The MGFFs are the older 20mm, and also they have a lot lower velocity than the MG151s and just a lot less hit power, basically. They're still fine. It's just annoying to line up all of the different muzzle velocities of all the different guns while you are firing them out. It has a pretty good engine, the B&W 801D2, but once again, at rank 4, you have just much better options, including this, the A7M1 Repu, the NK9H, which is incredibly powerful as a vehicle. So why would you not just use that? You also have the A6M5 Co, which is also very good. Don't know if you can get that anymore. And the J2M4 Kai, which is fantastic too. So that's the problem with this vehicle. There's no real need to get it because there are better options that are already there. So just get the better options and have a better time. Those are all the vehicles that are on sale. Quite a lot of them. And thank you for watching as always. Look after yourselves. Peace be with you. See you soon. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.